Hey everyone, I'm Mike from Chaos Labs. I run oracles at Chaos. Our oracle product is called Edge. And today I'll be talking specifically about risk oracles. We'll be doing a deep dive into what risk oracles are, how they're used, and the value they provide. So just as a quick overview, we'll go through the problem that risk oracles solve, the current process for the problem that risk oracles solve, what the risk oracle contract looks like itself, and then what's coming down the road. So the core problem we're looking to solve with a risk oracle, and the core problem we're solving as risk providers at Chaos Labs is, for any protocol we work with, we're looking to answer the question, if a given scenario happens, how does it impact the protocol that we're working with or providing risk for, and what action should that protocol take if this scenario were to occur? So a scenario we're thinking about or looking into is what happens if a stablecoin depegs, or if markets shift in one direction in a major way, liquidity crunches, lower high utilization, high volatility, things like this. And then an action you may take when any of these scenarios occur are adjusting parameters for the DeFi protocol that we're working with. So that may mean increasing supply and borrow caps, updating interest rate curves, things like that. And really for any of the protocols we work with, our goal, again, is to make sure that they don't end up as a headline, right? So they don't end up on the front page of Hacker News saying that they were hacked or exploited. That's really the fundamental goal of all of this. So for any of these DeFi protocols, when we work with them, a given parameter update looks something like this, where some event occurs. Chaos Labs is monitoring this scenario and all of these events in the background via some economic model. Some risk manager at Chaos is performing some analysis on the event that just occurred. They generate a recommendation. They then share that recommendation through governance. The governance reviews it. It may go through a multi-sig and via time lock. And then ultimately, after however many days, the parameters updated on chain and everything is right. So the goal, and one of the problems that the risk oracle solves, is it takes this process that today takes many days or weeks and turns it into something that takes minutes. So what exactly is the Edge risk oracle? It's a smart contract or API that serves optimized risk parameters to DeFi protocols on chain. So there's 4 components that make up the risk oracle. There's the chaos simulation that I mentioned before. It's this process that we have behind the scenes that's constantly evaluating all of these situations and scenarios and what's going on in the market at any point in time. Then you have the risk oracle contract, where these parameter updates are served. This, of course, lives on whatever chain the protocol is on. There's some keeper that's listening to or waiting for updates to this risk oracle contract. And then, of course, the protocol itself and the configuration for that protocol. So if we do a deeper dive into that process as it relates to risk oracles, and you look at each of these individual pieces, on the top left, you've got the chaos simulation engine. It's, again, doing all of this work. When it determines that some update needs to occur, it'll publish a transaction to the Edge, or to the risk oracle that's on chain. Then the protocol themselves will have some keeper. It could be Gelato, Chainlink, OpenZeppelin. You could run it in-house, doesn't really matter, but that's listening for an update via some emitted event to that contract. And when it hears that, it'll do some checks and bounds. And if everything looks good, update the configuration of the protocol. And again, it takes this process that used to take a very long time and makes it quick and efficient. So an example of this, a live example today, is GMX V2. They are automating open interest cap updates via risk oracle. So again, running all these simulations based on market utilization and some other conditions. If an open interest cap needs to be updated, it'll send a transaction, as you can see on the bottom left here, to the contract, and then GMX will have a keeper listening for that update, and it'll update the open interest cap on the protocol itself. Similar with Aave, they have an interest rate model that we're constantly monitoring and ensuring is up to date. And whenever that interest rate needs to be updated, again, publish an update to the risk oracle, they'll listen to it and update things on their side via a risk steward. So as a result, we've taken a process that took many days, especially for those protocols that have a longer governance process, and you're turning it into something that takes minutes. You're enhancing liquidity on these markets. Everything overall is more efficient. Now we can take a quick look at the contract itself. As Chaos Labs, whenever we write an update to this risk oracle contract, we're calling this publish risk parameter update function on the contract that we deployed for the protocol. And the inputs to that are some reference ID, which is a unique identifier that you can use to match what was written on chain to all of the inputs that generated that recommendation off chain. There's new value, which is the value of the update. So that may be the OI cap we're updating. The type of update. So if there's multiple parameters, this may be one of many update types. There's the market itself that you're updating, and then any additional data, which is bytes encoded. So you can kind of include whatever data types you'd like outside of the standard ones like market and value. And then when we do push an update on chain, the event that's emitted looks like this. So you have everything I just mentioned plus some other stuff. You can see the previous value. You have the additional data. You're listening for this event, and as soon as you hear it, you're updating the configuration on the protocol side of things. This is just an example of that event log that you'll see on chain. This is exactly what you're listening for. Now, in practice, I think this is a really good example of the impact this had for GMX after we rolled it out. So you can see towards the left over there, up until they rolled out this dynamically updating open interest cap, the OI cap was kind of just flat and standard for a very long time, not efficient, and we can go maybe in a separate session into the risks in having kind of a hard set OI cap. But after introducing Risk Oracle, I think this chart is cool because you can see how it's constantly updating based on the current utilization of this market. So what's coming down the road for Risk Oracles? We'll be introducing more dashboards on the Chaos Labs by Edge, or Edge by Chaos Labs website. We're introducing an API so you can consume these updates off-chain and write them on-chain as you need to, rather than going via contract. We'll be introducing specific keeper integrations and templates so you don't have to build this by yourself. There's various updates coming to the contract and modules that we'll be introducing, and also governance-specific integrations. So that's it. Thanks, everyone, for listening. And we can chat on Telegram. Thank you.